one of the world's great holy cities.
Najaf is what the Shia would call the heart of Iraq.
Iraqi insurgents had seized the city's mosque and surrounding cemetery.
We trained that we would be fighting in the streets and in the buildings, but never for anything like we saw inside the cemetery.
It was a fight on holy ground. How many lives would it take to reclaim the mosque?
I remember my heart basically falling out of my chest and me sitting down and almost sick to my stomach thinking that, oh my God, this is it. And we've blown it.
The following program is a dramatic reconstruction based on the recollections of American military personnel who participated in these events. August 2004. A platoon of United States Marines was advancing into a most unusual and dangerous battle zone, the world's largest cemetery. It was called the Wadi al-Salam, or Valley of Peace, in Iraq's holy city of Najaf.
My first impression of the cemetery when I saw it was like, holy cow. One, I'd never seen a cemetery that big. It's basically like a miniature city, like a city of the dead.
At first, it was quiet.
We came over the top of the hill on line in skirmishers formation. At the bottom of the hill, probably at a range of about 10 to 15 meters, is where we had our first contact with the masses of militia down there.
The Marines were outnumbered and exposed.
It was hard to get cover. You were basically hugging the ground, trying to chew some dirt so the bullets wouldn't hit you.
Kind of like up close, up personal, and basically letting rounds go as fast as you can. You're making eye contact with people as you're firing at them.
I remember just thinking, what the hell are we doing here?
These men were part of the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, known as the 11th MEU. A fragile truce was in effect. But now a heavily armed insurgent militia was threatening to disrupt the peace.
The mission for the 11th MEU was to go in and provide security that we believe were critical to the sovereignty of Iraq. But to get to that, we knew we had to probably conduct offensive operations.
The stakes here were extremely high. Najaf was the holiest Shia city in Iraq, site of the Imam Ali Mosque, which housed the tomb of Ali, son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. Next to the mosque was the Wadi al-Salam cemetery. More than 15 square kilometers of sacred burial ground.
Najaf is what the Shia would call the heart of Iraq. It is the home of two of the most significant religious sites next to Mecca and Medina.
Najaf was also a political power center, home to the moderate Ayatollah Sistani and the radical Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr. Since the 2003 invasion, al-Sadr had become the face of Shiite resistance to the occupation. He was protected by a heavily armed insurgent army called the Mahdi militia, some 3,000 fighters strong. They had commandeered large portions of Najaf, including the Imam Ali Mosque.
The militia had taken that over. They were harboring themselves inside that shrine. They were attacking us from that shrine, and we knew we had to get them out of that shrine and turn that back over to the Iraqi people.
to reclaim the mosque, the Marines first had to clear the adjacent Wadi al-Salam cemetery, where the insurgents staged their attacks. It wouldn't be easy. Millions of memorials, crypts and catacombs created a maze of tombstones and tunnels.
I think we all imagined a cemetery just like back here in the United States. Only when we saw the actual satellite imagery, that's when we realized how big the cemetery was. And even through the imagery, we still didn't know what we were getting into when we actually stepped foot into the cemetery.
The mission would turn out to be far more daunting than anyone could have anticipated. US Marines had been ordered to secure an Islamic cemetery in Najaf, where Iraqi insurgents were mounting their offensives. Once the cemetery was secure, coalition forces would squeeze the Mahdi militia out of their strongholds surrounding the mosque. Finally, US forces would charge the gates of the mosque. Then, Iraqi forces would enter what were known as exclusion zones, areas that coalition forces couldn't enter. The Mahdi militia was using the zones as safe havens to refit, rearm and train.
At the time that we went into Najaf, the Mahdi militia controlled one half of the city, coalition forces controlled the other half.
The standard operating procedure has been don't go into those exclusion zones. They're off limits. They're very, very culturally sensitive sites, and to disrupt those or damage those could unravel everything that was going on for the coalition forces in Iraq.
Tensions were high when the 11th MEU began patrolling the city streets on July the 31st. Officially, they were providing security for the local government, but they were also keeping a watchful eye on the Mahdi militia.
There were certain areas, though, that were not in exclusion zones, but were also very sensitive. There was insurgents walking around with open arms and taunting other services and coalition forces. Something that we were not going to tolerate, and something that we knew very early on that we would have to address.
2 days later, a Marine patrol targeted a sensitive neighborhood where al-Sadr had a residence.
That particular morning, I addressed the entire Combat Operations Center. I had told them, my spider hairs are tingling this morning. This is our first deliberate patrol, and something's going to happen.
The platoon we sent out August 2nd had around 35 Marines in 8 Humvees. The heaviest weapons we can put on our armored Humvees were with that particular patrol. Heavy machine guns, anti-tank missiles, tow missiles.
The patrol column filed through the city streets. Within minutes, they hit a Mahdi militia roadblock.
We were basically ambushed. And we had our first firefight at that point in time.